I'm honestly surprised I haven't made a video about Twisted Metal yet. I mean, I've been doing this whole YouTube thing for 5 years now. Twisted Metal Black is one of my favorite games of all time, and back in middle school I was obsessed with the series. Well, to be fair, I did talk about that weird but not half bad WWE ripoff game, and I did mention it in my Switch and PS2 comparison video. The series hasn't had a new game since the 2012 entry, but it's been kept alive with guest appearances and references in other games and media, re-releases of the game, and the show on Peacock. The show was actually pretty good, and unlike the games which always struggled with walking the line between edgy and comedic after the first 2 entries, it manages to be a fun, fast-paced dark comedy. Like I said, Black is one of my favorite games of all time, but a lot of the game just feel like something a creepypasta-obsessed 12-year-old wrote before being sent to the school counselor. Though I'll be honest, I do eat some of this stuff up. Yeah, run that motherfucker over. Yeah, run that motherfucker over. One of the notable things about Season 2 is the recasting of Raven, whose actor, Scream Queen Neve Campbell, wasn't able to return, so they replaced her with Groundlings member Patty Guggenheim. At the very least, they explained the change by saying that the first season Raven was simply a body double actor. But honestly, if they wanted to be accurate to the games, they shouldn't have bothered explaining the change. And why is that? Because if there is one thing that has been consistent in the series, it's that character designs will always drastically change. Even in the exact same game. It's something that's mentioned by most people as a passing thing, but it's something in almost every one of the 9 games in the series. So I'd like to make a comprehensive list of drastic design changes for characters in the series. And before you ask, I'll be covering the clown at the end of the video in his own section, because he'll take the longest to explain. Now, one thing to note is, I'll only be covering minor design changes if they happen in the same game. Small design changes between games aren't crazy since most games take place a year between each other. Of course people will look different. It's been a year. I'll only mention major design changes if they happen in the same timeline. Oh, yeah, I should probably mention the timeline. So, the series has a bit of a complex timeline. It's not as confusing as Kingdom Hearts or Halloween or The Legend of Zelda, but it's still quite complex. So it starts off simple. Twisted Metal 1 happens in the far-flung futuristic year of 2005. Twisted Metal 2 takes place in December of 2006, exactly 1 year later.
My name is Calypso. Exactly 1 year ago on Christmas Eve, my Twisted Metal contest destroyed the City of Angels.
Now it starts getting complex. The game has 2 direct timeline sequels, Twisted Metal 3 and Twisted Metal Head-On, with both acting as alternate timelines. The reason for this is that Twisted Metal 3 had an almost entirely different development team than the first 2, and a mixed reception. So when a good chunk of the original team came back to make an entry for the PSP, they decided to create their own take of a Twisted Metal 3. Head-On takes place about a year after 2, but 3 is less clear because the character ages are inconsistent. For example, Marcus went from 32 to 36, while Jamie went from 24 to 26. I'm getting off topic. So the original timeline goes 1, then 2, and then splits between 3 and Head-On. Meanwhile, Twisted Metal's 4 and Small Brawl seemingly both exist in their own timelines. You could argue otherwise, but nothing in their stories follow up the previous games and their worlds are seemingly completely different. Twisted Metal Black starts its own timeline. Unless you subscribe to the Twisted Metal 1 retelling and Sweet Tooth's mind theory, sorry, I'm getting off topic again. Twisted Metal Black is followed up by the stories in Twisted Metal Lost, thus those 2 exist as their own timeline. And finally, Twisted Metal 2012 is its own world like 4 and Small Brawl. Okay, now let's start going over character design changes in the original timeline. Starting in Twisted Metal 1, there really isn't much to say here because the final game only has characters appear physically in the character select screen. All the cutscenes in this game are text only, with this picture of Calypso in the background. Yeah, there are the deleted live-action cutscenes that were revealed years later, but those weren't in the final game, so there isn't anything to note here, except for the monster truck Hammerhead. According to the character select screen, the truck is driven by high school dropouts Dave and Mike, but then in Hammerhead's ending, there's only one driver present, whose name is never said. Did one of them kill the other? Did they realize there was only one wish for winning, so they snapped and fought to the death? Kinda weird, but it's only going to get more weird from here on. Actually, Hammerhead is driven by 2 characters named Mike and Stu in the second game, so maybe both Mikes are the same, and Mike killed Dave during the first game? Neither of these 2 look like these 2. Maybe it just happens to be 2 different Mikes driving the same truck? Who knows? Before we move on to Twisted Metal 2, I did want to point out that in the levels Arena Duel and Fight of Your Life, there's this poster of Calypso with a blue face instead of his usual red one. With returning characters from 1 to 2, there aren't crazy design changes outside of the clown. The only notable changes are Calypso having a less burnt face and nice hair compared to his first game design. Minion actually has a design and is revealed to be a demon, after not being shown physically in Twisted Metal 1. Meanwhile, Charlie Kane has the opposite effect by not being shown outside of a text description in Twisted Metal 2. Also, Carl Roberts had his name changed to Buzz for seemingly no reason.
Oh my god, Buzz, I found you!
And Simon Whittlebone only has glasses in his character select screen, but never has them anywhere else. But don't worry, we'll get back to him. But besides that, things are pretty consistent here. 3 and Head On are where things get crazy. Major design changes between 2 and 3 are both Jamie Roberts and Marcus Kane having blonde hair instead of black, though Marcus still has black hair in his character art, Captain Rogers no longer having his strong body from his ending in 2, despite the game clearly stating the ending happened and that his main motivation for the game is to get a head to match the body. Minion has a pretty different design despite still being a demon, and Calypso seems to have gotten some really good face cream because his face is no longer burnt. Now for in-game inconsistencies, we only have one. Amber Rose, the driver of Flower Power. Now, this is what she looks like in the character select screen, brown hair and everything. And here's what she looks like in her ending. Yep, the blonde hair curse strikes again. What's even weirder is that the game's manual shows her with a design that's sort of an in-between of the two designs. And Sony's official magazine showed her with another different look. One character with 4 official designs in one game. Amazing. Also, I do want to bring up the case of Ken Masters from Twisted Metal 2 and Lance Wilder in 3. So both of these characters drive the sports car Spectre in their respective games. They both are men looking for fame as their wish. And, well, look at them. They look more like each other than Jamie does between her first 2 appearances. My theory, which I have no evidence for, so please take this with a grain of salt, is that they were at one point supposed to be the same character. However, because Ken shares his name with the character from Street Fighter, they ended up changing his name and just saying it was a different character. This is only a theory, but come on, look at these two, they look so similar. And they even drive the same car, what do you want me to say? The other Twisted Metal 3. So, to cover the small stuff, Amanda Watts returns from death in her sister Miranda's ending. Despite being revived from the moment she died, I guess she had a little bit of time in between to change her clothes. Calypso has also aged quite a lot between 2 and this game, despite it only being 1 year. And hey, his face is healed no matter the timeline, though I do wonder what happened to his eye. Now for the main 3 characters who changed. Simon, Mortimer, and Marcus. Starting with Mortimer, the Keeper of Souls has seemingly died between games. So in Twisted Metal Head On, he has a more undead and less cool looking design, in my opinion. He also acts much more timid than he did in 2.
I haven't been able to get back to sleep. I'm so tired, Calypso.
Instead of being mysterious and attacking Calypso,
These are the souls of the people who have died in your contest.
he just acts polite to him. Calypso acts the same, though I wouldn't be surprised if Calypso's just afraid of him knowing that he could easily take him out. And with Simon, I mean just look at him. He's gone from vaguely European bodybuilder
Please, Calypso, help me to build my tower. Help me to build my dream.
to nerdy American.
Please, I wish to be reborn. So I may complete my life's work.
Even his voice changed to reflect this. Man went from Arnold Schwarzenegger to Master Shake. They even do a recreation of his ending from Twisted Metal 2 in order to gaslight you into thinking he's always looked like this. Surely there can't be a crazier change in this game. So anyway, let's do our final subject, Marcus Kane.
Oh my god! He's white!
My boy. My sweet fourth wall breaking boy. They whitewashed him like he's in The Last Airbender. So technically he was first white in Twisted Metal Black, and while I initially wouldn't consider that for this video since it's its own timeline, there are secret codes during loading screens when you play as Marcus that imply that this is the same one from the original Twisted Metal timeline, and also imply that Sweet Tooth is a split personality of his, which Head On 100% confirms. Like, I know other Twisted Metal fans love it, but I've always kind of been mixed on it. Although, besides the last name, the two do have the connection of being the most consistent fourth wall breakers in the series. One thing I do want to point out is that series creator David Jaffe did admit that Marcus's plot in Twisted Metal Black was a last-second decision.
And then as I was just making up the story, it just kind of was like, oh, that'd be cool if it's, because, you know, in Twisted Metal 2, we have the thing where a lot of it, like the Wizard of Oz, was in Roadkill's head when he woke up from his coma, if you won that character. And so I think it was inspired by that, but it was really just sort of a last minute, like, oh, that's kind of weird and cool and fits the vibe and theme. And it was one more of those ideas that I think feel like it's a deeper, well thought out, you know, and it never was.
Speaking of Twisted Metal Black, here it is, the peak of the series. The best-selling and highest-rated game, and my personal favorite. And boy, is it inconsistent. If you don't know, Twisted Metal Black had a very troubled development, a large chunk of which was caused by its edgy story. Much of it had to be changed, which you can see by checking out the deleted versions you can find on YouTube. The European versions had the cutscenes fully taken out. Crazy. But because of this, the game was left in a sort of beta state. Well, a beta state in every way except for gameplay. The gameplay is amazing. For example, there are unfinished characters in the game's code, unlockable characters have less cutscene than the starters, and they also just use storyboard animations instead of fully animated ones. And finally, the character designs. So remember when I talked about Twisted Metal 3, and how Amber had one design in the menu but used a different one in the actual game? Well, that happens in Twisted Metal Black, for about half the characters in the game. Yeah, for what I can only assume is another issue from the game's troubled development, many characters look different on the character selection screen than they do during cutscenes. We'll start with the first character shown in-game, Billy Ray Stillwell, my personal favorite in this game. His story revolves around how he was disfigured in an attempted murder. So why does he look normal on the character select screen? Okay, he looks a bit rugged and like he's got a gash on his forehead, but he kinda just looks like a normal guy. Compare that to how he looks in the cutscenes. How about Agent Stone? During cutscenes he looks like a generic SWAT team member, but in the menus he looks kinda like the previously mentioned Simon Whittlebone. Notably, the menu design was the one used for the show. Bloody Mary has ruined makeup, while in-game she has her face looking normal, alongside different colored eyes. For two minor differences, we have Raven's makeup being different and Cage wearing sunglasses, which he never wears at any other point in the game. And finally, we have the titular Black. In cutscenes, he's this hulking beast of a Gimp man covered in muscles, but his model used in the menu has him as the complete opposite, with rather large breasts. Boobs! It's hard to see in the menu since he's in his truck, so if people never ripped the file from the game, you could never tell. Notably, the game had concept art showing this design driving Axel's vehicle. Now, according to some people online, every character in the character select screen has differences from their actual cutscene looks, but for most of these I really don't see it. When it comes to Twisted Metal Lost, all characters use their designs from Black's character selection screen over the cutscenes, thus making these the canon designs in a weird way. Notably, Cage's description claims that he lost his arms and legs in a duel with Sweet Tooth. But like, you can see his hand in his character select screen, and he's still driving his car somehow, so, yeah. I mean, I guess it's not that crazy. I mean, the character No Face literally doesn't have eyes. How the hell is he driving his car? Moving back in time a bit, we have Twisted Metal 4. Notably, this is the only game where series antagonist Calypso is a playable character, with Sweet Tooth having taken over the role of tournament host. Calypso uses a few designs throughout the game, such as his Joe Perry looking design in the opening cutscene, and his main game design which has brown hair and red eyes. Now, Twisted Metal 4 is in its own continuity, so it's not that crazy that he has a new design. After all, in Twisted Metal Black he was just bald. But, in his ending cutscene, Calypso just reuses his model from Twisted Metal 3, thus having Calypso in 3 different designs in this one game. Now, most other characters are good to go, appearing consistent throughout the game. Notably, this game has the most bosses in the series, having 9 boss characters, who are all playable. None of them have their own cutscenes, and it's never shown in-game who's driving them. Though notable is the fact that while we aren't shown the driver of Minion in this game, the stage Minion's Maze has this stained glass window that resembles the truck's driver from Twisted Metal 2 and 3. Axel is also a boss in this game, and while he doesn't appear in cutscenes like the other boss characters, you can see him during gameplay. Right there. He looks a lot more robotic than in previous games. I guess he's like a cyborg now or something? Shortly after the game came out, an official strategy guide was released that revealed that yes, Minion is controlled by the demon from past games. And it gives official art for Axel's design in this game.
Oh my god! He's white!
Okay, so I know this is technically a different universe version of Axel than the ones in every other game, but like, in every other game before and after this, Axel has pretty dark skin. It's just weird to see him so pale. I don't know, maybe he's supposed to be just like light skin like The Rock or Maven or Derek Jeter? The only other notable thing about 4's characters is the fact that Rob Zombie is in this game as a guest character. He appears both animated and live action in his ending. Alright, let's talk about the face of the franchise. The only character to be playable in every single game, it's Sweet Tooth. At least, he's known as Sweet Tooth starting with the second game. So in the first game, Sweet Tooth is the name of the ice cream truck, while the character is named Needles Kane. He looks like a standard creepy clown character. You know, green hair, kinda weird looking face. Needles would return in Twisted Metal 2, now sporting his iconic flaming head and more traditional clown wear. He's constantly seen foaming from the mouth, but with the PlayStation's compression, it looks more like he's melting. Notably, Sweet Tooth is one of the few characters to never speak in this game, with Calypso instead stating what the clown wants. Also, even though the game acknowledges that Sweet Tooth is the truck's name and Needles is his actual name, the clown is only ever called Sweet Tooth in-game.
Sweet Tooth, winner of the Twisted Metal contest, was granted an audience with the founder of the competition.
Something that continues for the rest of the series. Now for Twisted Metal 3. Needles wears a snazzy suit and gloves, with him no longer having a head of fire, but instead his hair just looks like flames. And just like the last game, the character select screen acknowledges his name is Needles Kane, but in-game he's only called Sweet Tooth.
So, Sweet Tooth, your wish is to eat all the candy and ice cream you want? Your wish is granted.
Notably, his design in 3 is the one used for his guest appearance in Hot Shots Golf 2, alongside motherfucking Gex. Now, Twisted Metal 4 is where things get interesting. So just to remind you, Twisted Metal 4 is in its own universe from the other games in the series, with a plot about our clown boy taking over the position of main antagonist from Calypso. He even serves as the game's final boss, but in this game, he's never called Needles Kane. He's only ever called Sweet Tooth. So Sweet Tooth's main design is as a carnival ringmaster, with his head of flames back again. He's got a snazzy blue coat with gold outlines, yellow bow tie, a red and black striped jumpsuit underneath, and long cuff white gloves. However, the game's box has Sweet Tooth in a modified design, with a more detailed face, red shoulder pads, black and white checkered frills, a red bow tie, and pants with different stripe sizes than his other designs. Also, quick thing, did you know the box for this game inspired the cover for Juice WRLD's album Death Race for Love? So, Sweet Tooth joins the cast of characters with 2 designs in the same game. Well, not exactly. Because advertisements for the game would show Sweet Tooth in a modified version of his second design. But with a red jacket, white pants with stripes, and hair designed to look like fire instead of actual fire. And to make things more complex, the game's final stage, the Carnival, uses artwork more resembling Sweet Tooth's Twisted Metal 3 design both in-game and on the loading screen. Thus, Sweet Tooth has 3, debatably 4, different designs in this one game. Incredible. And I didn't even bring up his kid or teenager designs from the opening cutscene. Twisted Metal Black is next. Like all games before it, the game uses a new design for Sweet Tooth. But unlike other games in the series, this would become Sweet Tooth's main design for the rest, including Twisted Metal Head-On, even though that game is supposed to take place after 2. Black also never calls him Needles Kane, only ever calling him Sweet Tooth. But Black's follow-up Lost would confirm that Sweet Tooth is canonically named Needles Kane in this world too. Most future games and the show would use slightly varied versions of Black's design, thus establishing something normal for Sweet Tooth. For once. Also, like, remember when he just turned into a bug in his ending in Twisted Metal 2? Are we, like, ever gonna acknowledge that? The only exception to this design is Small Brawl, where like other characters in this game, he's portrayed as a kid. Notably, his artwork for the game shows his head of flames and red lipstick, while in-game his model has hair designed to look like fire and black lipstick. Also, just like Black and 4, he's only ever called Sweet Tooth, never Needles. Well, this video ended up being a lot longer than I thought it would be. I'm almost at 20 minutes now, jeez. I'm not really sure how to end this video, I'm not gonna lie to you. Oh, do you know about David Goodrich? He's a game developer who worked on a few games in the Twisted Metal series alongside Ratchet & Clank, Jak and Daxter, Vigilante 8, and Where's My Water. He's been revealing a bunch of unused concepts from Twisted Metal Small Brawl, including unused cutscenes and characters. Even if you're not too into Twisted Metal, I'd check out his channel because it gives a good look at the game development process. Also, during the making of this video, I found an ending cutscene for Twisted Metal 4 posted on the channel Twisted Mosh Asylum. It's actually a completely unused ending. It has less than 600 views as of this recording. I'll link all these in the description. And yeah, that's all I have to say.